Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. Today we are having another episode of the Girl Talk series. I have a special guest here today, Cassie Bjork, a women's health and weight loss expert, and we're going to be talking about how she went from a registered dietitian to now wanting nothing to do with that whole side of the industry. So we're going to get into the dark side of the weight loss industry. Stay tuned. If you like this series, make sure you hit the thumbs up button, join the conversation down below, and if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel. So what's up, Cassie?
Hey Liz, how's it going?
It's good. So Cassie and I are friends from, I don't know, way back when.
Years. Yeah, years. We even went to Bali together.
Yeah, we did. And that was an adventure.
We've had lots of adventures.
That was a definite adventure. So tell us more about why it is that you left the dietitian world, you relinquish your license. What's that about? Because I've seen a lot of nutrition experts, you work hard to get those licenses. So what happened there?
Yeah, it's so crazy. I worked so hard. I think one of the proudest days of my life was when I got my dietitian license. So it is crazy to think that I just kissed it goodbye, but it wasn't exactly just an overnight decision either. It kind of started way back when I was in school to be a dietitian. Nothing really made sense to me. You know, we were taught the whole count your calories, eat less, move more, and that was like the magical equation for metabolism and weight loss. But when I did that, when I restricted my calories and worked out like a crazy person, I actually ended up gaining 20 pounds in school to be a dietitian, which was super embarrassing because I was training to be one of the weight loss experts and I was gaining weight as I was applying everything I was learning in school. You know, I was like eating those little like 100-calorie snack packs and sandwiches on whole grain bread and oatmeal for breakfast every day and working out, you know, at least once a day, doing all the things that we were taught was good for weight and metabolism, and they just backfired and didn't work.
So that's really interesting because a lot of people watching this, I'm sure, are thinking to themselves, what's wrong with oatmeal? What's wrong with whole grain bread? So kind of dive into what is wrong about dieting advice, or what is wrong about the nutrition advice that is regulated by the government.
Yeah, exactly. By the government. Yeah. And like what dietitians are teaching. Well, the problem is it's so high in carbs and processed foods. And it's not like you shouldn't ever eat carbs. We just need to have more of a balanced approach. And one of the biggest, you know, problems that they tell us is to restrict fat, to eat low fat and fat free. And fat is so important for metabolism and weight loss. And that's something that, you know, I wasn't taught in school. So I just restricted fat. I had fat free everything like a lot of women have done. And that's, I think, one of the big reasons why people gain weight, because we actually need fat in order for our metabolism to work properly.
Yeah. And you also wrote there was this dude, I forget who the dude was, but he said that coconut oil was bad. And you wrote like a rebuttal.
Like this huge rebuttal article that like pretty much like went viral within like hours of writing it, because coconut oil is so important for your metabolism. There's so much mixed information even just about that. It's such a good, healthy fat.
Yeah. Even for like heart health and all that too. Like we need that stuff. So that happened a couple years ago that you relinquished your license. You were actually in a legal battle.
Yeah. So it was just earlier this year, I actually relinquished it, but it was almost a 6-year battle with the Board of Nutrition and Dietetics. So it was actually, I started my career about a decade ago in the whole weight loss industry, and just a few years into my career is when they started coming after me. And they came after me because everything that I teach is so opposite compared to what most dietitians teach. You know, I was getting a lot of publicity in the media and in the news, and they didn't like that I was pretty outspoken about, you know, what I learned in school wasn't necessarily based on actual science and research. A lot of what I learned in school to be a dietitian was based on dusty old textbooks from the 1970s. And it's not current with what we know today about healthy fat for metabolism and about how we need to have enough calories in order for our metabolism to be working, and restricting doesn't do us good long term. It can help us lose weight in the short term, but not long term. And a lot of things I was learning in school and applying to my own life, the things that were actually causing me to gain weight, that caused me to really delve into the research and find out, gosh, actually, I need to do the opposite of a lot of the things that I learned and break the dieting rules.
So what would you say, like, why do you think it's like that? If we have better information, we have more and more updated context for what people should be eating for optimal health, why do you think that it's still, can you like speak a little bit into why it's still being recommended that people eat low fat and restrict calories and all of that? Because I'm sure there's people that can super relate. I mean, my personal story is very similar. I restricted calories like crazy, did the same thing. It was like all I cared about was the calorie count and then working out like a maniac. And I ended up with overuse injuries, no energy, just absolutely like I basically was like a skeleton pile on my bed every day because it was like I didn't have actual muscle. Like I wasn't learning that.
And it messes our metabolism and messes up our hormones, especially as women. Like dieting is, there's so many problems with it. So here's the thing, Liz, it gets a little sketchy. Like you wonder why we're still being taught this information that's not founded on any science. I always think it's important to follow the money. And the government has a lot to do with it. And even like the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics is sponsored. For years, it was actually sponsored by McDonald's, Coca-Cola, General Mills. I'll never forget when I walked into my first dietitian conference. This is like the big annual, food nutrition expo for registered dietitians. I saw this big Coca-Cola sign, and the main talk of the day was sponsored by Coca-Cola. And it was on calories and why calories matter for weight loss. And why they want us to think that is because then we can just drink Diet Pop like it's going out of style if all that matters is calories. And then I looked and there was another tent from McDonald's giving out fruit and yogurt parfaits. And then further down there was General Mills. And it was like, I was just looking around. I was like, this just seems really messed up. That like my whole education, this is where I'm getting my continuing education credits. And that's still, some of those sponsorships aren't there anymore, but there are still a lot of like big food sponsorships for the dietetic industry.
Well, yeah, and the government also has subsidies with a lot of like corn producers and all of that. So, we look at the traditional food pyramid, the base of it right now, at least, is like carbs.
Totally,
like wheat and carbs and all the things that, like gluten too. It's like, maybe we should revamp that and make that like plant-based on the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even in like the 1960s, there was a single study, and it was funded by the sugar industry saying that, fat was what was making us fat. And the government like took that as like real, science. And really that's when it kicked off the whole like low fat diet and more carbs and that whole pyramid with like the huge, foundation of carbohydrates, which doesn't really make any sense. There were no other studies to back that up. And you have to wonder, like, I wonder why that happened. I mean, whenever there's money involved, we really have to kind of like use our brains and think, I wonder if that's actually for our own benefit.
Have you heard of the bliss point?
I have not.
So there's actually teams of food scientists that are working for these big corporations. I've talked about this in videos before, where they are literally in a lab discovering what's called the bliss point, which is the perfect amount of sweetness and the perfect amount of saltiness that triggers your brain to have a chemical reaction so that you keep craving more of it. So I don't know, when you combine like knowing that that's happening behind the scenes, behind closed doors, plus the government subsidizing all of these companies that are, I mean, come on, let's be real. Coca-Cola is pushing sugar in a can. And
isn't that crazy? Like how they actually manufacture products to make us more addicted. Like our best interest in health is not in their mind, their marketing mind. And it is kind of crazy. I mean, even like, I still to this day, I'm kind of like surprised that they actually came after me to take away my license.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And to be clear, I mean, I ended up just giving it up because I was like, this isn't even aligned with anything that I'm teaching anyway. It doesn't really make sense to keep fighting for it. So I could have won the battle, but after almost 6 years, I was like, this is just crazy. It's not even in line with what I know to be true.
Yeah, that is crazy. So it's been 6 years since that all went down. How do you feel about it now? And what are you teaching your community, your women now?
Well, the amazing thing is I didn't have to change anything that I was teaching, since basically if I would have kept my license, I would have had to change what I was teaching. And what I know to be true is that calories don't matter like we thought they did. Sometimes we have to actually eat more in order to lose weight, to keep our metabolism fueled. It's really important to eat healthy fat for our brains and for our metabolism and to burn fat. And processed foods, it's okay to include them a little bit, but I just don't agree with a lot of the recommendations from most dietitians where they're just pushing, processed foods and low-fat foods still to this day. So what we teach our clients is what we found works over the past decade, and that is to break a lot of the dieting rules that we've been taught for years. And that's why our weight loss coaching program is called the Rule Breakers.
Oh, I love that. That's so cute. I love that. I want to be a rule breaker.
Exactly.
I feel like
I know the women we work with, they love being rule breakers because for so long it's like they put themselves through these diets that they're restrictive, and we get so out of touch with our bodies. Like we don't even know when we're hungry and when we're full, and we lose weight and then we gain it back, and sometimes we gain more because then our metabolism's more messed up and it just becomes more difficult every time. So the important thing is to get everything in balance. And so not only are we breaking the dieting rules, but it's important to look at all the pieces of the puzzle, which is your body, like your hormones and your thyroid and stress and sleep and supplements. All of these play a role in how your body functions and whether you lose weight or gain weight and how energetic you feel. And it's not just about food and exercise. And that's one big thing that the board didn't like, that I was talking about anything other than low fat, low calorie food. Still the message that they teach is that it's all about calories, just exercise more, eat less, and that's the metabolism equation. And that's just not the reality of it. Our bodies are so much more complex.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I completely agree. This is what we teach in Super Sister Fitness and all of the things that, because I made that mistake as when I first became a trainer. Yeah. And so now that I'm on the other side of that, and I am blessed to know people like you who are clearly very, very knowledgeable, I feel like this message gets to be out into the world. So for anybody out there that has ever wondered or felt like, I don't really know what to do, there's so much misinformation, there's so much information overload, check out Cassie's stuff. And if you're interested in learning more about the Rule Breakers program that she's talking about, we will link that up for you down below. And we are going to hop onto a couple other videos that we're going to go into metabolism, supplements, and some basic things for how to break all the dieting rules that you've ever been told and actually get the results that you're after a healthier way and an easier way. So we'll link those videos down below for you as well. Cassie, where can they find you besides those things?
Cassie.net.
That's pretty
That's where
easy.
the party starts.
All right, well, thank you for joining us. I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
What does sisterhood mean to you?
Sisterhood to me is community. It's not doing life alone. I think so many of us, especially as women, we try to do it all on our own. And, we try to be achievers, and we're moms and sisters and wives and coworkers. And it's like we try to play all these roles individually. And that's okay to some extent. But I think it's really when we come together to support one another and we're in relationship with other women, that's when we thrive the best.
I couldn't agree more. Put her there. All right, thanks for coming, Cassie. Okay, so if you liked today's video, again, make sure you hit the thumbs up button and join the conversation. What are your thoughts? Have you ever had thoughts like this where you're like, what's going on with the diet industry? If so, we want to hear from you. And as always, don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next time. Bye.